Private Lender Podcast, Episode 2.
This is the Private Lender Podcast, the show that shares practical advice and know-how for new and seasoned lenders. From private mortgages on single-family houses to joint ventures on commercial projects and beyond. Discover details about investment vehicles that you won't find at your local bank or online broker. Listen and learn from private lenders and real estate investors, as well as from professionals and entrepreneurs, as they share the details, strategies, and the insight that allows for successful and prosperous lending. Now, get ready to increase your ROI. Here's your host, Keith Baker.
Welcome to another episode of the Private Lender Podcast, the best podcast out there on the internet in the known universe for private lending and making money passively, or so they say, and they say a lot of things. I'm your host, Keith Baker, and welcome. I hope your new year is off to an awesome start and that you are going to accomplish all your goals and scratch that. You know what? I hope you take action. I'm not so much concerned about your goals. I just hope you take action towards your goals, because that is a powerful position to be in. So if you take the action, the goals should come, right? They should follow. Seems logical to me. Anyway, welcome again, 2018. I hope it's a great year for you. This is going to be a short episode number 2. Thanks for coming back. If this is your first time, then welcome. If not, I appreciate you coming back. I need to do a little bit of disclaimer here as we get started. Number 1, I am not a lawyer. Number 2, I'm not a tax attorney. Number 3, I'm not a CPA. So if you decide to take action, any kind of action from listening to the Private Lender Podcast, which I most certainly hope that you do, then please do your own due diligence and seek the advice and help of professionals to help guide you along the way. Also, another very important thing to mention, this podcast comes to you from the energy capital of the world and home of the 2017 World Series champion Houston Astros, Houston, Texas. That's right, I'm a Texan, and as most Texans, I believe that Texas is the center of the universe. Yeah, I know you're nodding your head right now. You're listening going, yeah, you Texans think that, and we pretty much do. Well, why is this important for you to know? Because all of the real estate investing, private lending, and all the experience that I've had with the legal system and legal documents and the things that I speak about on this podcast come from a Texas perspective, and they're based on Texas law as I understand it, which may or may not be different from the laws in your home state. So please do your own due diligence and look into things. Build your own dream team to help you out in your state or in the jurisdictions that you are doing your investing or your lending in. Texas is a deed of trust state with a relatively fast non-judicial foreclosure process, which, as you know, all Texans know we love, and all lenders in Texas know we love that, which makes it very favorable to be a lender. So please do your own due diligence in the state or the municipality or the jurisdiction in which you dwell, in which you invest. Make sure that you comply with all the laws, rules, and regulations for your particular area. Now, before we get into the heart of this episode, I'd like to give a couple of shout outs, if I may. Shout out number 1 goes to our sponsor, Bell Station. Bell Station is the Private Lender Podcast home for food, cocktails, craft beer, and nightlife. It's located at 207 Gray Street in Midtown Houston. You can catch them on the web at bellstationhtx.com. That's BELLESTATIONHTX.com. Or you can give them a call at 346-204-4792. They've got some great food there, great cocktails, great local craft beers. So if you're in the area or you're looking for a spot just to hang out on the weekend, have maybe a happy hour, Bell Station is the place for you. Shout out number 2 goes to an organization that is going above and beyond lending to help those in need, including the victims of Hurricane Harvey in Houston and surrounding areas. I implore you, I beg of you to please visit fanaticalchange.org, fanaticalchange.org, and donate your time and or your money to this great organization. They hold an amazing Halloween party every year that is worth more than the price of admission, and they're really going above and beyond to help out those in need in the Houston area. So even if you don't live in Houston, please go and help them out. I do as much as I can with them. It's a great organization. So please check them out. That's fanaticalchange.org. So this episode is going to deal with some beginner's questions. It's episode number 2. And if you have more than just a couple of deals under your belt, this may be a little elementary for you. But for those of you who are new to the concept of private lending to real estate investors or private lending for any type of investments, then stick around and hold on, because I think this episode will give you some valuable information. Every time I speak to somebody about private lending, or I explain to them that I am a private lender and they're uninitiated, they have more than a couple of questions for me. One, what money do I use? Where does that money come from? And the biggest question they ask, is this allowable? Is it legal? And yes, it is legal. And I will go into exactly where the money has come from, what you can use. The answers are even more simple than you believe. So let's get into it. You can lend with any available cash that you have, whether it be in a checking account, a savings account, money market, a CD, any free and available cash that you have, even cash bills. You'd have to convert them into a money order or a cashier's check before a title company will accept it. But you can use any or all of those. Before recording this episode, I went to bankrate.com just to look at the published rates for certificates of deposit for up to 1 year and $25,000. And what I found was for a 6-month CD, you can get around 1.3% or 1.5%. And if you go up to a full year, 12 months, you can get close to or right at 2% on your money. Well, if you do private lending through either checking, savings, money market, or free cash that you have sitting around, you can make somewhere between 5 and 15%, hands down, day after day, if you so desire. And these investments are backed by hard assets, real estate. The other place you can get your funds is through retirement accounts. And a lot of people, this is where they get tripped up on legality and is it allowable. So before you take my word for it, go ask your CPA or your local attorney friend, if you have one, about self-directed IRAs. They're 100% legitimate and legal, and they're allowed and written into the tax code. I do most of my lending, almost all of my lending, out of mine and my wife's self-directed IRAs. We both had old 401ks from old jobs, and we rolled them into self-directed IRAs and have been lending from them ever since. Now, don't get me wrong. We still keep money in Wall Street and the stock market because that's how we were trained and how we were brought up. And let's face it, the market's had a hell of a run the past few years. So why not grab that tiger and hold on to its tail until it stops running? But we have found that private lending from our self-directed IRAs has been the most rewarding, especially with building our network, learning our local area, learning our local market, and investing locally in our backyard. So that's going to be it for today's episode. Sorry that it was short, but again, this was geared more towards the beginners. And if you would please go to iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher to subscribe to the Private Lender Podcast. And it would mean so much to me if you could leave me a rating and a review, as that will help me build the tribe of lenders and attract even bigger and better guests in the near future. I want to thank you for listening and remind you that no matter how wealthy or unwealthy you are, you can always lend more than money to help those around you or to help those from afar. You can lend your time, you can lend your ear, and you can lend your compassion to someone who is less fortunate than you. So go out there and make a difference. This is your host, Keith Baker, saying goodbye and wishing you happy, safe, and secure lending. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Private Lender Podcast with your host, Keith Baker. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit privatelenderpodcast.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time.